All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. The return of Mikey Garcia. He says that Errol Spence Jr. was the worst fight of his career, and he's going to be making up for it against Jesse Vargas. He also gives some very insightful information about the process that he goes through with the PBC and Matchroom. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also a special thank you to everybody that has joined the channel as a member. Thank you so much to everybody that's over on the Patreon. Thank you for your encouragement and your support. And thank you to everybody that comes through the live streams Monday through Friday in the morning, in the afternoon Eastern time, but 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. And 12:15 a.m. or p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, let's get into this. Mikey Garcia talked about the Errol Spence Jr. fight and told us something that we all knew, that was the worst performance of his career. You think so? You think getting beat every round by Errol Spence Jr. Easily outboxed and pretty much humiliated and made, have your tongue spitting out, doing all kind of jutting tongues and all that, was your worst fight ever, and it's the only fight you lost? Yeah, I would go with that. But Mikey Garcia said he's not going to he's not going to let that be the end of his time at 147 pounds, and rightfully so. One loss should not end your career. One loss does not necessarily mean that you're not a great fighter. It's not something you can't come back from. Sometimes styles make fights. Sometimes it's just not your night. There's a lot of, matter of fact, most all of the great fighters have had losses at some point in time. And Mikey Garcia did move up in weight to fight the guy that is the best at that weight class. So, my hat's off to him for doing things that a lot of other people won't do. Right? Go up in class and fight the best guy in the division. That's something Canelo Alvarez won't do. Canelo Alvarez moves up to 168 pounds and he fights the weakest champion he could possibly find in Rocky Fielding. He moves up to 175 and finds the weakest champion he could find at 175 in Sergey Kovalev. Arguably, maybe Bivol, I guess, if somebody wanted to say Bivol, but no, I think the weakest, oldest, been knocked outest person up there at 175 pounds was Sergey Kovalev. So that's the route that Canelo Alvarez took as he climbs weight classes. That was not the route that Mikey Garcia took going into 147. He thought he saw something with Errol Spence Jr. He was dead wrong. He got his behind whooped, and hey, now here he is. Okay, getting back out there, getting back on the horse, fighting Jesse Vargas. Jesse Vargas is a solid fighter at 147 pounds. Jesse Vargas is somebody that fought to a draw with Adrian Brawner, right? So he's a safe pick for Mikey Garcia, right? Jesse Vargas is a good fighter. He's not a great fighter. There's nothing that he really does exceptionally. He seems to be, to me, primarily a counterpuncher, which is going to allow Mikey Garcia to take the lead with those jabs and straight right hands. They also know each other fairly well. There's not going to be a lot of animosity in the fight. And I just see Mikey Garcia picking him apart and winning a decision against Jesse Vargas. Jesse Vargas is nothing special, but at the same time, I do believe that Jesse Vargas at welterweight is probably just outside of the top 8, 7 or 8 behind guys like obviously Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter, Ordenis Ugas, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, maybe the young dudes like Jaron Ennis, Jamal James. I think Virgil Ortiz might be at 147 pounds, so a little bit behind maybe the young guy like Virgil Ortiz. But Jesse Vargas is definitely somebody that can give you a good fight and will definitely test you, and you'll see where you are. So I like the fight. Now, the most interesting thing that I heard, though, in this conversation and that I read in this article with Mikey Garcia was what he said about the process of signing with Matchroom Boxing. And I thought to myself when I read this, I was like, okay, this is a bright guy, man. Mikey Garcia is a bright guy. Mikey Garcia knows what he's doing. And from what I can see from the outside looking in, hey man, what he did with Matchroom Boxing was a very, very good decision. And it's a good decision on a couple levels. Number one, it's good because of the way, at least the way that he describes it, my understanding of what he described in the relationship. It's a one fight deal with options, right? So there's going to be one fight with Mikey Garcia, and I believe that it's going to be Jesse Vargas on DAZN. And when Mikey Garcia, after that fight's over, then the next fight, Eddie Hearn has an option to sign him for a second fight. Now, this is what I really liked that Mikey Garcia said. Mikey Garcia said, and this is something I've been telling people for a long time, I tell you guys all the time, that not all of these provisions in these agreements, because it's called the same thing, they don't always mean the same thing, okay? Because you have to look at the specific phrasing of the clause or of the provision, read it, and then to know, and then you can find that just a little word here, a little word there, a clarifying definition can completely change the meaning. So when people will hear that Eddie Hearn has an option on Mikey Garcia, you would assume, people always assume that means, well, okay, if he decides that they match the amount of money that is paid, that means that Eddie Hearn gets to fight if he matches it. That may be true. That may not be true. There's all kind of different ways that you could word that, where he has the right to match an offer, but you could have multiple things to take into consideration. Who the fighter is, the option won't apply if, you don't give me somebody that has a champion, that has a fight at welterweight, right? So if it's a championship fight and it is at welterweight, then Eddie Hearn doesn't have the option, goes away, because Mikey Garcia just gets to go off and fight Manny Pacquiao, right? So if Eddie Hearn wanted him, Mikey Garcia could match somehow the money that Mikey Garcia would get from Manny Pacquiao, but wants to have him fight, who knows, Kel or Amir Khan. Mikey Garcia can say no, because he's not a major championship belt holder according to the option. You have to give me a major championship. You have to give me a major champion, belt holder, either the WBC, the WBA, the IBF, the WBO. We ain't counting the IBO, and you have to match the money. So if you can't get me a fight with Manny Pacquiao on pay-per-view with, then you can't. Then I don't care how much money you offer for Amir Khan, that goes out the window. So when Mikey Garcia made, I'm just using an example there, just pulled that out, of thin air. When Mikey Garcia said, look, this is a partnership, a fight-by-fight partnership, and there were some things in the option agreement, in the option clause that Eddie Hearn presented to me that I didn't like, I went back and I rewrote. I assume that he means his counsel and his team rewrote it, where they explained to him what it was that this said. And he said, well, no, I don't want to do that. What I want to make sure is that the only way I'm going to fight him again, that he can exercise an option on me, is if it is this, and this, right? So then they document it, they put it in there, and they kick it off. So that way, essentially, it becomes a one fight deal unless, certain criteria is met. But then you only have one option, and we can kick out of here. Then he can get up out of here. That's unlike maybe a situation like what Jeff Hearn had with Top Rank, where Top Rank signed a one fight deal with Jeff Hearn. I believe he signed a one fight deal with Jeff Hearn and then 2 option fights, right? And the option fights were this. The option fight wound up being one with Gary Cochran. This is for Jeff Hearn. One for Gary Cochran, and the next one wound up being Terrence Crawford. So that wound up meaning that belt had to go away. He couldn't even drop the belt because of the way that thing tied Jeff Hearn into fighting Terrence Crawford. He couldn't find, like, for say a unification fight could trump that, and he could go off and fight Manny Pacquiao. He could fight Errol Spence. He wound up getting a screw job and getting beat up for less money against against Terrence Crawford. So there's different ways that you can write these things. I thought that was a great observation from Mikey Garcia. And also, I love that Mikey Garcia is coming back, and he's trying to come back at 147 pounds. He said if he doesn't feel comfortable and it's too much, he can always go back down to 140. And there's a bunch of good fights at 140 for him as well. So let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.